Hello YouTube, Shadow Hero 90 here. As you can already tell, I've been doing this show for about 3 years at this point, and in addition to the reasons as to why I do this, which I brought up last year, I am now actually going to state a few more reasons why I do this. One of which is that the portrayal of men in movies and TV is essentially toxic. And I mean really toxic. Men are... To be honest, I can't believe that I'm one of the only very few people who legitimately thinks that this kind of portrayal is not only toxic, but completely unfair. Second of which is the fact that these cartoons are aimed at kids, and they do not send a good message. Most of the time, a lot of these shows are role model shows, and the characters exist for the sole purpose to be imitated, and yeah, in doing so, you send some really horrible messages. And the last possible reason I could think of is that not this, but all these shows are pushing a political agenda. To be more precise, the political agenda comes in the form of a princess character whose initials are J and B. I'm pretty sure you can figure out who I'm talking about on those initials alone. But yes, a lot of these shows, and to extension, a lot of these role model shows, are pushing a political agenda. And as a white heterosexual man, I really don't want kids being indoctrinated because it could lead to a bad future. In fact, I really hope some really smart boy sees this show and it actually gets him thinking about sexism, and it causes him not to be indoctrinated to the feminist agenda that a lot of TV shows, cartoons, and movies are pushing. Especially a certain movie that will go unnamed that used a princess character whose initials are J and B to push their political agenda. As much as this intro actually does seem like a bad rant about the negative presentation of men and boys in the media, this is completely serious, and these 3 reasons I gave for doing the show are actual reasons. Now, that being said, if you agree with me on this, that's good. So just sit back and enjoy the review. Okay, in this episode of Sexism in Movies and TV, I will be reviewing the episode of Loud House, Brawl in the Family. Okay, so in this episode, Lenny and Lori get into a fight, and Lisa and Luna just tell Lincoln to stay out of it, not letting him go into the kitchen for a snack because one of them is in there. And they claim that sister fights just work things out if you just leave them alone. Then Lisa gives Lincoln a bagel. Well, Lisa did know that the bagel was from the couch, but apparently she didn't know how disgusting it was until Lincoln took a bite. It's almost as if she's either doing this on purpose, or more likely, she suddenly is stupid as Peter Griffin when the plot wants her to be. You know, just to give Lincoln more pain and agony. Understandably, Lincoln has to vomit, but another one of the lunatics won't let him vomit or use the bathroom, and instead makes him go in a bucket because she's done it before. And she's a little kid, and she's insane. So, yeah, this is kind of messed up when we're dealing with a boy who is 11 and has all his marbles. Then they stop Lincoln from watching TV because two of the sisters are in an argument. They physically assault him for just walking in and reaching for the goddamn remote. Well, after being highly frustrated, Lincoln decides that he's going to take matters into his own hands and ignore what his sisters tell him. Because, yeah, he's kind of being abused in this scenario. So Lincoln does talk to Lenny and Lori, and admittedly, yes, he ends up starting more fights in the house between the 10 lunatics he's forced to live with. How is Lincoln supposed to know this would happen? We get no flashbacks to any previous sister fights. So, yeah, even though he makes the problem worse, he didn't know that he'd be making it worse because he has nothing to compare it to. So then, just because Lenny was walking down the hall and Lori was at the same time, Lynn and Lola essentially put her in Lincoln's room and throw him out. They don't even try to compromise. They don't ask Lincoln if Lori can stay with him for what can only be assumed to be half a minute to a minute and 20 seconds. They just directly kick him out. Then later at dinner, Lynn and Rita Loud prove what shitty parents they really are when they acknowledge that they know about this sort of thing, make Lincoln eat twice in a row to the point where his stomach might as well explode, and nor do they want to take sides, even though even though they shouldn't take sides, they're still the parents. And they should bring this little sister fight to an end. Because, well, they have the authority to. They're the parents. They could do it easily. But no, they don't. They don't even try disciplining Lenny or Lori for their deplorable behavior, and instead just sit by on the sidelines watching their only son suffer. Even back before the show began, when it was just Lenny and Lori, they did not discipline them, even though they could have, and should have, based on what I'm seeing in this episode. I know they don't want to take sides, and they shouldn't, but they should bring this horrific behavior to an end. It's called being a responsible parent. So anyways, when Lincon gets back to his bedroom, he finds out that his deranged sisters stole his sheets just so they could have the means to keep Lenny and Lori apart, even though you usually just draw a line on the floor for this sort of thing. But nope, they had to do it in a way where Lincon actually has to face consequences to something he didn't even do. And for complaining about this little fact of injustice, well, Lana throws used and stinky laundry on him, telling him to use that as a blanket and sheets. So finally, Lincon has had about enough, and he takes his sheets and blanket back and tells off his two bitch sisters. Lincon wakes up the next day only to find out that all the lunatics are fighting. Things got so bad that Lincon had to stay over at Clyde's house, which in all fairness, if it wasn't in favor of the plot, Lincoln's deranged sisters would have suggested he do that in the first place. So Lincon goes home, ready to fix this problem once and for all, only to find that the problems have resolved themselves. And then Lisa tells Lincon that he's the problem, apparently because he's a boy. You know, that's very insulting. Lincon has shown he's shown a high level of intelligence. And if this was so above his comprehension, they would have just had him sleep over with Clyde like he did. Or at least Lisa would have if she's anywhere near as smart as this cartoon says she is. Which leads to another sister fight, only this time the parents, Lily and Lincon, are taken off the premise. And you're probably wondering what was the chain event that started this whole episode. It must have been something really fucking bad. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was just that Lori got a new dress, Lenny had the exact same dress, and Lori, acting like a spoiled little bitch, demands that Lenny return it. And that's what starts the fight. You know, to be honest, I see fans of this show basically saying that the Loud sisters, but doesn't this behavior strike anyone else as being crazy, deranged, insane, psychotic, or however the hell you want to put it? Since the beginning of The Loud House, Clyde McBride has been both Lincoln's best friend and Laurie's stalker. So in the episode A Change of Heart, when Clyde literally, well, he pretty much wants to find out how to be around Laurie without doing this, he goes to Lenny for help. And when Laurie finds out about this and thinks that Clyde now has a crush on Lenny, she tries to copy Lenny to get her stalker back, and when doing so, she acts like a complete nut, having an argument with her own reflection and everything, like some kind of schizophrenic lunatic. And to be honest, if I were Lincoln, I would probably do the whole sister fight thing and pit them against each other for my own amusement, if I were him. Not to mention not put up with any of their abuse. But in all seriousness, The Loud House is technically a show about a boy in a very abusive home life. Hello YouTube, this is Shadow Hero 90, and allow me to welcome you to my show, Sexism in Movies and TV. Now, there are 3 reasons as to why I do this show. The first is because, as someone who watches TV, and as a man, I really do think I should be able to watch an actual American show without constantly being offended, and without feminism being crammed into everything. The second reason is that a lot of these shows are geared towards a younger audience, and it would really be good if anyone from Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon saw this and actually tried to make a decent role model for boys, who's not a white knight, a complete sissy, a doormat, or basically someone who is worthy of the title hero. You know, to keep them from turning out like these pricks. Doormats and losers like these chumps. And my third reason for doing this show is because, I'll just say it, they're aimed towards children. And kids are very impressionable. If you put the wrong stuff in a show for kids, it's gonna send a lot of really messed up messages. Like convincing a boy that basically trying to have anything that's meant to be his is somehow a crime, or wanting to himself is somehow a crime. Or, basically, a little girl being convinced that she can assault neighborhood boys, younger brothers, and any little kid or male who's weaker than her, and that there will be no consequences. In fact, a lot of these shows do teach girls that they can do whatever they want and consequences do not apply to them. So, with that being said, feel free to enjoy the review. Okay, this is the second time I'll be reviewing a Loud House episode. In this case, it's the episode No Such Luck. And like the previous one, well, last time I reviewed this, Lincoln Loud is essentially going to get torment for wanting time alone. Since when has that been a hate crime, or a crime at all? It's almost as if living with these insane narcissists, and yes, despite what fans think, the Loud girls are crazy. There is no other way to describe it. But yes, in this episode, Lincoln is genuinely upset that he has no free time because most of his time is spent either sacrificing for his jackass sisters or just plain having to show up at one of their events. And when Lincoln Loud thinks that he basically gets the day off from, spending it in the insane asylum, he runs into his older sister Lynn, who's basically an athlete. And when he tells her he wants some time off to, read comics and have some time to himself, she threatens to beat him up with a baseball bat. Unless you don't get it, allow me to translate what fucked up message this sends to little girls. If they have a brother who's younger than them, it's okay to threaten that boy with physical violence if he does not do whatever she wants. I really don't see how Lynn doesn't come off as a bully in this. I mean, if the genders were reversed, yeah, the older brother would look like a fucking bully. But no, she gets off innocent because of her gender. Yeah, Lincoln was there, but so were her parents and her other sisters. For all she knows, well, if there is bad luck, maybe it was caused by the parents, or the twins, or basically someone on her opponent's team has good luck. She doesn't know. After seeing this as an opportunity, Lynn then dances off like an idiot. So anyways, the next morning, Lincoln is reading comics, finally getting some free time, and then in this scene, he basically he claims to be bad luck and plays along just so he can have some free time. And yes, I will admit, Lincoln is basically desperate to do whatever he has to get some time to himself, to do things he enjoys, and I will admit, he is using psychological means to basically scare off his 10 deranged sisters, and it does come. But imagine if this scenario had been reversed. I mean, trust me, if one of Lincoln's sisters was pulling this stunt, I don't think she'd end up getting punished at the end. Because I'm starting to think that Nickelodeon does not value men, or boys, or anything that's not a female. And it shows, since one of the psychos actually managed to tie him up. Basically because she thinks he's bad luck. And this brings us to another scene, which is kind of messed up. Lori this is the first mention of her playing golf. Her thing was that she's obsessed with her boyfriend, and Lisa is the one out of the 10 who would not believe in this, but she eventually does. And after enjoying a lot of time to himself, which, if you're familiar with the show, Lincoln would deserve, his family essentially abandons him because of this bad luck thing, including his moron parents. This is just the beginning of the shit that Lincoln is put through for wanting some time alone. First, the parents don't want anything to do with him. Now, they're excluding him from going to the movies with them. They literally bar him out of his own bedroom. They make him sleep outside, and are basically forcing him to live outside from now on. I mean, I know this is supposed to look like karma, but it doesn't. It just shows what assholes the Loud family is. I mean, I can't believe Lincoln hasn't tried running away at this point. And as someone who is familiar with this show, a lot of the stuff Lincoln learned and sacrificed, he sacrificed a lot for his sisters, and this is what he gets in return. It's kind of a good thing that this show is not more realistic, or else Lincoln would, at the first opportunity, do whatever he can to get as far away from these bitches and that asshole father of his as possible. So, anyways, Lincoln confesses, but surprise, surprise, no one believes him. So, here's the ending. Lincoln shows up in the mascot suit, and Lynn's team wins. So, now Lincoln's family accepts him, but only if he wears that stupid-looking chipmunk costume. And really, what was Lincoln's crime in this episode? What did he do wrong? He just wanted a little time to himself. With 10 sisters, he literally has no time to do anything he enjoys. Even to the fact that he had to stoop down to using psychological warfare to get a little quote-unquote me time, his family treats him like shit over it. You know, if Loud House was more realistic, Lincoln would be in foster care right now. And I did kinda come up with a really good ending for the Loud House when it eventually gets canceled. See this guy? The neighbor? He was basically the focus of the season 2 premiere that was their Christmas special. And in it was established that he's so grumpy / mean because he comes from a big family like Lincoln Loud does, but he never gets to see him. And this kind of looks like a very good, well, very likely future for Lincoln Loud, but with one key difference. When Lincoln Loud basically grows up to be an old man who never sees his family, Lincoln would most likely be happy because of all the shit his sisters put him through, how he sacrifices everything for them, and they basically don't really care. Because in many ways, they are abusive. Okay, in this episode of Sexism in Movies and TV, I'm going to be covering the episode Garage Banded. And you're probably wondering, what is so sexist about this episode? Well, if any of you are regular viewers of this show, then I'm sure you remember the episode where I reviewed the episode No Such Luck. As you can tell, it's gotten over 750 views and 2 likes. In that episode, the one I reviewed, No Such Loud, Lincoln was essentially bullied into having no time for himself and having to attend all of his bully asshole sisters' functions or events, and was threatened with physical violence when he said no. But when Lynn lost her baseball game, she instantly assumes that Lincoln's bad luck. So, in order to get some free time, Lincoln takes advantage of this and has to psychologically scare all 10 of his sisters into not wanting him around, which quickly backfires in his face. They essentially lock him out of the house and force him to eat outside and forbid him from attending any family activities until he makes them realize he's not bad luck, but then they make him wear that stupid-looking mascot suit. You're probably wondering how that episode compares to Garage Banded. Well, it's actually really simple. You see, in this episode, Lori, who is the oldest, might I add, is basically sick and tired of actually having to help her younger siblings because, well, like I said, she's the oldest. Both of their parents have to work to keep that family together, and she's the second thing that a lot of these Loud kids have to a second mom. All that aside, the point is that Lori just wants some time to herself. And she gets it by moving into the garage. You're probably wondering at this point, how this could possibly be similar, or what negative message could this, what makes this episode so similar to No Such Luck? Well, that's actually kind of simple. Just like Lincoln, Lori just wanted some alone time, and she gets it. But unlike Lincoln, who had 11 years of alone time to catch up on, Lori actually completes every task that she wanted to do in only 30 minutes. And then she actually wants to go back, but she did remember what a massive temper tantrum she probably had to throw to move into the garage, so she literally has to pull every stunt she can think of to convince her parents to take her back. And eventually she gets the idea to convince the neighbor to ram his lawnmower into the garage so she can come back. The plan doesn't really go as well as Lori had hoped it would, but after explaining the truth that she wanted to come back, all of her siblings welcome her back with open arms, blah blah blah, the freaking end. Now you're probably wondering how this compares to No Such Loud. Well, that's actually simple. We have one of the Loud siblings in No Such Loud, it was Lincoln, and in Garage Bandit, it was Lori. All they wanted was some time alone. They paid the consequences for it. And, well, those are the only similarities. The only difference is that when Lori wants some time alone, her siblings welcome her back with open arms. But the minute Lincoln wants some time alone, which is pretty sympathetic since that's the basis of the show. He's one boy in a house full of 10 girls. Apparently Lincoln, well, what I'm saying is that apparently they're saying it's okay for Lori to want 30 minutes to herself, but if Lincoln asks for just one, it's almost a crime. Or they're probably implying it is a crime since Lori got it easily. She got her 30 minutes to do whatever she wanted. Lincoln had to stoop down to psychologically scarring his family or something along that line, and it results in him being treated like a dog or a monster. What these episodes have in common is they both feature a Loud sibling that just wants some time alone. What they're implying is that it's okay when Lori wants it, but it's not okay when Lincoln wants some time alone. And I'm not going to accept the excuse that Lori deserves time alone just 'cause she's the oldest. Lincoln deserves time alone too, because he's the only boy in a house full of 10 girls. And the reason I won't accept this as an excuse, that excuse is a complete fake out. And before I end this review, I am going to say I do not believe in the controversy that showed up surrounding the show, because in all fairness, its creator, Chris Savino, is not only a white knight, but I'm pretty sure that he 100% fucking hates men.